Good morning and welcome to Eat Your Backyard, my YouTube channel where I share my backyard and my love for permaculture with all of you, and hoping to inspire you with a similar kind of thing in your life. It's certainly brought me a tremendous amount of joy, and I'm just trying to pass that on. That's really the only thing that we're trying to do here. And it's been a while since posted. I've been focusing on my music channel. For those of you who don't know, I compose and release music, and I've really been diving into that lately. And if you're interested in seeing what I do, you can go over to the Jedi Jingle Maker channel, where I also put my videography that I do, combine that with the music. Recently started a new music thing, what will be my 5th album, I'm very happy to say. There's a service called DistroKid that allows you to distribute your music to all of the major music platforms, and so all of these things are available on all the normal places like Spotify and iTunes and YouTube Music, etc. So if you're interested in that, I certainly would encourage you to check that out. That's where I've been putting the majority of my attention lately, is into the music, because I love musical creation so much, and it's amazing what you can do now with the technologies like digital audio workstations and MIDI, and I could go on and on, but this channel is about permaculture, turning your backyard space or whatever space you have into something that can produce food, but I think more importantly, in most cases, can produce a sense of calm and serenity and joy that I have really come to depend on in my life as a way to provide a foundation for what I do. And I'm hoping I can see some of the friends of the channel on today's stream. I've been looking into the comments recently, and I've seen a lot of comments about, hey, where are you? What's going on? So I really appreciate that. That's really one of the best parts of having this channel over the years. We're up to 30,000 some subscribers, and so many of you have become friends of mine over that period of time, and seeing the journey of my kids being, very little to where now 3 of them are out of the house. Actually, my daughter Jessica's home this weekend, which makes me incredibly happy. We're gonna all head down to the beach here later today and splash around in the ocean, and that's going to be something like a heavenly experience, I am sure. Well, as long as we don't encounter a shark bite, which we're actually up to our 3rd shark bite in the family. So, and happy to say all those were resolved in a good situation where no permanent damage, and finding a kind of strength that makes us realize we can persevere past monsters of the deep trying to eat us, or at least taste us, which is really what it seemed more like. So today I'm going to walk around, show you what's going on in the backyard. You can probably tell from the shot you're looking at now that, well, things are growing and doing quite well. And I want to right away really sink into a sense of gratitude for many of the people that have helped influence and understanding of permaculture, my understanding of growing things, and allowed me to get things like these chickens and the bunnies I have now, etc. But first of all is Suzanne over at Funky Chicken Farm in Palm Bay, Florida. If you don't know about her or Funky Chicken Farm, I would recommend you check it out, because that's an amazing experience to just go see what she's going on. She was part of I think the legalized chickens movement in Brevard County, Florida. So a lot of gratitude that we can have backyard chickens as well. If you don't have backyard chickens, you might consider getting some, but they might not be for everybody. I tended to overthink the concept of getting chickens. You really don't need that much of a complicated setup to get it started. But now that I have them, we really love these little hens. For sure, we call them our girls. Oof, my air conditioner is very loud. We're getting our air conditioner replaced here shortly, and they kind of wired it together to just limp along until the final new system gets put in. But yeah, so things are just growing like gangbusters everywhere. And it was the incorporation of the animals that was really the missing puzzle piece that brought this all together. This is the northern end of my yard, and pretty much everywhere you look is now green. And we'll look at some of the specific plants. Maybe this will give you some ideas of things you can grow in your backyard. I'll also be reading through the comments. We may have some moderators on the channel show up, and that would be great. If you're watching this live stream after the actual live event, well, go ahead and leave a comment and let us know what you think. Give us an update on what you're up to, what you see when you watch this video, because for me, that is one of the most incredible parts of having a YouTube channel, is the connection that you get with other people. Of course, sometimes you also get connection with people that are just kind of trying to be mean. That's very rare, though, is what I found. Very rare. I found the vast majority of the people that come to the channel are interested, curious. They have questions. They're really just wanting to be part of a community. And so if you're into that, you're in the right place. But if you want to keep track of me, well, Jedi Jingle Maker is probably the place to have a more reliable connection with me. All right, so let's walk around and see what's going on. RS says, do you have any kind of special event when you get a shark bite, like a Boy Scout badge? No special event. I said on the third shark bite that we encountered in our family with my son Jack, when he was bitten on the way to the hospital, I did tell him, as he was, basically right in the midst of it, that this is an incredible experience for you. I mean, look how well you're handling it. Look at how strong you can be. You can be bitten by a shark and we can rebound. I mean, he really just impressed me in so many ways, and I think was able to learn about himself. So he got a type of a badge of honor, a badge of pride that I think has served him very well. Same with my older son, Jonathan, who was also bitten twice, once on the leg pretty severely. But that, I think, was one of the galvanizing events in his young life at 13 years old that made him the strong man that he's become, somebody that people can depend on, somebody that's interested in the benefit of the people that depend on him in a really sincere and great way. So, my way of looking at it is that very positive. All right, let's walk around and see. And I want to point out this one plant to you, which was given to me by my hygienist. She is a viewer of Eat Your Backyard and said, I've got this plant I need you to know about. And she brought in a cutting, and I planted one cutting that was about the size of this right here. And now it is everywhere. The reason it is everywhere is because just before rain, I plant it. I just take some cuttings and stick it in the ground, and it grows everywhere. What we determined after about 6 or 8 months of having this in the ground is that it sprouts these beautiful orange flowers, which I've recently, and I'm sure we'll see some butterflies around today, lots of butterflies, because there are butterflies, I don't want to say swarming. I do want to say swarming, but they're not swarming, they're flittering more like around my yard all the time. Monarch butterflies and these beautiful white-winged butterflies, and they love these plants. Yeah, they love this flower. You can see, hopefully, the signal is clear, but you can't smell it, and you'll probably be glad you can't, because it has, I'm going to say, a rancid. I'm going to smell it right. Yeah, it's really reminiscent of body odor, I would claim. Others will say, other vile things that it smells like, but it's not that pleasant of a smell. I've really gotten used to it. And but, it is something to get used to. If that's going to bother you, this probably isn't for you, or I suppose you could trim these off. The bunnies won't eat these flowers. The chickens won't eat these flowers, so there's something about them that is kind of rank. But there's something about them which draws in butterflies, monarch butterflies. I bet you if I go over to where they're blooming the heaviest, we'll find some. But the main point is that this plant, the leaves on this plant are, pick off just a little leaf, have almost a flavor of a carrot, and everything loves to eat it. So the bunnies love to, everything, I mean the bunnies and the chickens both love to eat these leaves. This is Eat Your Backyard, so we eat in the channel, during the channel. And yeah, it's tasty. It's like a, really is like a cross between a romaine lettuce and a carrot. And I'd recommend you plant it if you can deal with the smell. Holy moly, Gerald Franz is on the channel. Gerald, it is great to have you on. I'm so happy you're here. As always, I hope everything is going really well for you. Gerald has been a long-time friend of the channel and just a super cool person over the years to get to know. And yeah, so thanks, Gerald. Stoked you're here, man. But look at these chicks. Let's see how the chickos, I call them chickos. Let's see how they like some of this stuff. And this is the mode that I love to be in. I do all the time. Look at it. Can you see? They love it. So I'll come out here if they're getting a little chatty. I'll just pick a few branches of this, throw it in there, and they go to town. You know, the bunnies will do a similar thing. You put a bunch of this in their cage and they eat it immediately. They love it. So all part of the bigger idea I'm trying to express here, which is that you know, the connection of all things. I know that sounds kind of hippy-dippy, but it really is something you can experience, which is that there's no separation between anything in this yard, really. And the one missing piece was the animal component, and by that I mean the fertilizer that they produce. That's the food that fuels this whole system. The chickens produce the manure into the bedding that we have there. We put that in the compost bin. We'll go over and take a look at the compost bin, which produces absolute gold value soil that you can sprinkle around on the lawns, use it to plant plants, etc. Got a couple compost bins of that brewing right now, but every time we clean the chicken coop, we put it in the compost bin. And the reason is chicken manure is very messy. It's like a soupy kind of thing. So it goes down into those wood chips, which provide carbon, and we put that in the composter, and then that becomes soil down the road a year later, whatever. Now the bunnies, though, produce a type of bunny manure, I'm told it looks like Cocoa Puffs, that can go directly on plants. And let's go take a look at the bunny manure situation here. I'm gonna go into the bunny run. Bunny cage. Hey, Penelope. How you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm scared. These bunnies are not domestic, meaning that they're still like wild rabbits. So they'll jump and they don't necessarily prefer to be picked up. Good old Penelope here, she'll let you hold her for an hour in your lap if you want to and just pet her. She's become very tame. Many rabbits you get are actually domesticated, so you can, you know, they behave a little differently. But these bunnies, they're little, they're lionhead bunnies, and we let them down every day to hop around. I've created this little Zen bunny run, we call it, where they can, you know, stretch out and dig. But you know what they do mostly is go and hide. You know, that's what bunnies mostly do, is they kind of hide. So you might think, well, they're in cages, is that okay? Yeah, it's definitely okay. They're actually pretty content here. Oh, hey, Thumpy. We open up the cage door so they can see out, but yeah, something just very therapeutic about the fuzz of a bunny. And what they produce is this. Now, I'm way overdue cleaning this, but a non-stop flow of bunny manure. That's the fuel for everything I do. in this yard now. And I'm going to point out things as we go by them, just so you can comment on them, think about them. But this is logs. These are logs from the oak tree that I had trimmed in my front yard. And we apply them as an edge here. Just lay them flat on the ground and let nature do its thing. And what nature does is it'll grow it'll grow fungus all over them, and that fungus then gets down in the soil and everything. There's a beautiful lizard. They have mildew all over them, and it becomes a natural place where worms and bugs can be under, and so it creates much more of a natural environment for the whole thing to just kind of fit together, in my simple way of putting it. I put these logs all throughout the yard, and well, look right here. Just notice this. This type of fungus. See that? Isn't that amazing? I think they call that turkey tail fungus. And there's some more. And if we walked around the yard, we would just find all different types of varieties of that stuff. Now, I've heard people say that this is no good, it kills plants, etc. Don't believe the hype. Do not believe the hype. I haven't found it kills anything. I've found that fungus eats things which are already dead. And if something's diseased or dying, you might have a fungus grow out of it. You know, you see those come out of like cocos palms occasionally when they start to die, and people go, oh, that killed the palm. Well, chances are, in my opinion, the palm is already on the way out, and that fungus just set up camp, just helping it along. What do we have here? Anybody know what this one is? This is a dragon fruit cactus. This is the yellow variety, and I've got knowledge that there are 3 primary types of dragon fruit. I have harvested fruit off of these, but it's kind of cactus which will grow up trees. It has these roots that attach to things, like this fence. You can see it's attaching to it. More of the plant that I was pointing out. I should know the name of it, but it's not really something I'm that concerned with. Just to know the names of these things. I know what they do, which a name's just a symbol. What this thing really is much more than just the name or a symbol. It's a thing which attracts butterflies. It's a thing that's beautiful to look at. It's a thing which provides, a green backdrop wherever you look. And it's also organic matter that can go right to the compost bin. So if at any point I think, well, this is too much, it's growing things, can easily cut this back like it's invasive, growing everywhere, get rid of it. Very easy to uproot it and throw it in the compost bin, but why would I? I could just pick a bunch of it and throw it back in the chicken pen, and I guarantee you the hens will go at it full speed. Yeah, another thing, which, quick shout out, if you haven't checked out the Reed farm, that's Dave Reed up in DeLand, Florida. Oh, look at that squirrel. So many animals. Squirrels love those mulberries. Our squirrels are really tame back here. We have several of them that are constantly around, and you can kind of recognize which ones they are. I think squirrels mark their territory and defend it somewhat. And yeah, we kind of like to see them around, to be honest. They take their share of food, and I don't sweat it. They're looking forward to all the mangoes blooming, which I'll show you where the mangoes are right now. They're on the verge of being ready to pick here in about probably 2 to 4 weeks. But yeah, we'll lose a certain amount of those to the squirrels. But on the Dave Reed farm, he's got a YouTube channel too. I'd encourage you to go check that out. Really interesting guy, him and his wife and child. I got the pleasure and unique honor of going to visit and spend some time with him, and I still haven't processed all the video that I got there. It was a wealth. It was like drinking out of a fire hose of knowledge, being around Dave and learning from him. He's got so much know-how in his small farm there. He also sells plants and so on. So if you're into land or you're looking for an absolutely awesome place to go visit with this kind of stuff that we're looking at here, well, go give him a visit. Go buy something, have a chat with him. You won't regret it, I guarantee it. The last time I was there, I got out of the car, and I'm not even kidding, there were 3 turkeys within a stone's throw of my car there. He lives in an interesting part of the world. I love the land. It's just a beautiful place. Oh, here we are. It's time of the morning. Yes, you're proud of those eggs you just laid. Yep, appreciate you. Something about the sound that a chicken makes that I like. Let's see if she laid an egg. Or really, I should say, let's see how many eggs she laid. Toe cam. To do all this stuff one-handed. I think I can do it. I'm gonna have to put this down. Oh, I got it. Okay, I built this thing. Oh, didn't mean to disturb you. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Let's see if we can get this shut with one hand. Got it. Okay, so yeah, definitely eggs in there. One cool thing that I point out while I'm in here is that this mulberry tree is not doing that great, but these mulberries, oh, you know, always a good idea to plant some mulberry trees in the chicken run so that as they drop, the hens can grab them. So one of the things we love to do is grab the mulberries and feed the hens. Yeah, and I like to say chickens will turn anything, any area they're into Mars. So you won't see any weeds or any bugs hopping around the chicken run, that's for sure. All right, let's look at the comments. RS says, I was going to guess Elkhorn, but I couldn't get the keyboard in time. That was a lot of work to let you know. Yeah, thank you. Gerald Franz, wow, the bunny run has really evolved into bunny paradise. P.S. Made me blush. Good. Gotcha. Gotcha, Gerald. I love it. Pulling out the love gun, baby. Look at this. This is a brown turkey fig. These figs are just starting to get close to where they're going to be giving fruit. These taste absolutely delicious. Something about fig trees I always like to point out is that they get a kind of brown, they call it rust, but which will make the leaves fall off. You can put things on it to treat that. Why would you? Just let the leaves fall off is my approach. Enjoy the figs while they last. Everything in my yard loves figs. So we got the brown turkey fig. We've also got this Persian mulberry tree, which a neighbor of mine allowed me to get a cutting. I went and knocked. That's always a fun thing to do. If you see your neighbor's got a fruit tree that you might want to take a cutting, just go and knock and make a friend. I found it to be a great thing to do. But they have absolutely delicious mulberries. If you see the size of them, they're actually, I'll try to put it in comparison to my hand, they're actually pretty big. Pretty big. And here's one. You can eat them red. Eat them when they get black, but beautiful, beautiful mulberries. They taste fantastic. I'm gonna eat that one too. Oh yeah, that's good. So good. I love mulberries. We looked at the dragon fruit. I've got going here is an olive tree. Scored that over at Lowe's. It's been doing quite well. Slow grower, but beautiful tree. This is sugarcane. Another fun one to grow, easy from cuttings. This plant here is called Biden's Alba. This is one that Dave Reed told me about, and it grows everywhere, just a weed in Florida that you'll see commonly growing in any vacant lot or space in Florida. And it actually has an antibiotic property to it. It's very high in nutrients. It's delicious to eat. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, so a lot of things growing back here. Of course, I have Dracaena everywhere as well. This is another easy one. Dracaena, there's so many varieties of it. Grows so easily from a cutting. You can literally just cut a stick of it and jam it in the ground and it grows just about every time. I'll see that butterfly. There we are. Butterflies have arrived. Yeah, this is my common experience here. Butterflies flittering around. I don't see the monarch butterflies around, but I'm sure we'll see a couple. Another good variety of mulberry tree is the everbearing variety. The key with fruit trees, one of the keys for me is to continuously trim them. We don't want fruit 20 feet up, fruit right here within picking distance. And with the mulberry, this but you have to trim it. Every time you trim it, you pop out new growth and you'll get these beautiful mulberries. So the experience, and everywhere you look, there is a handful of goodies to achieve. I've been picking off of this one. This one's close to the chicken pen because one for me, two for you. There you go. Because those chickens love it. But they love to be trimmed. And they'll grow right back as long as you are giving them some nutrients. And what I do is that bunny manure that we looked at, I'm going to take it, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and I go around with a little hand spade, and I just flick it. I flick it at whatever I think would use it, you know. And I flick it at this mango tree, which we cut way back. I actually topped it, had it topped completely. It'll grow back over and cover that, just to give you an idea of what happens. Look at how this one's healing up. Same kind of thing will happen on those larger pieces, but now the fruit will be down lower where I can pick it. Before, it was up 40 feet in the air, and mangoes 40 feet in the air, no good. Also, mangoes by 220 power line, not advisable either. So to keep this away from the power line is now one of my consistent goals. But look at the mango production. I'll turn around so you can see the... Oh, by the way, if you made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to also be showing you a really cool device that a good friend of mine gave to me here shortly, so stay tuned. I got a surprise for you at the end of the video. Look at these mangoes. You kidding me? Am I in heaven? Where I grew up, a mango was something like a bizarre thing from another world that you could hardly imagine existed. I did grow up around apple trees and peach trees and plums and raspberries and blackberries and all that, so that's why I'm doing all this stuff. My grandfather is a huge influence on me. Really gave me a love of agriculture, a love of growing things, a love of eating fresh vegetables and fruits. But this is a Hayden mango tree, and these mangoes are, to me, one of the most delicious mangoes that ever existed. I love them so much, and we are going to have so many mangoes you couldn't possibly eat them all. One thing that I am now capable of doing is drying the mangoes, and I've done a lot of that, but at some point you ask yourself, how many mangoes is enough mangoes? And I'm at a ridiculous quantity. Even with 2 trees producing, I'm at a ridiculous quantity. So one of the pillars of permaculture is to establish a network of trading with other people that have resources that you require, and you have things they require, or maybe not even require, just want. And you develop a network of exchange so that you can exchange resources. And you know, that to me is an existential truth that you would see in this yard through the closed system of everything exchanging and with each other to be part of a complete system. Same thing with other human beings. So one of the things I'm going to do is pick about 2 5-gallon buckets full of mangoes and take them over to Suzanne, and we'll probably trade. And that'll be so fun. So, you know, I owe the music, the permaculture, and then so many other things. But really the sweetest part is the connection you get with other people, in my opinion. That that natural organic connection you can get with other people in a real, you know, you're not, in a real natural way, I'll just say, which is totally special. But now this tree is now at a place where I can just easily pick all the mangoes. The pole picker that I have will get to the ones that are higher up, and I'm gonna keep it low. When you have a mango tree, one of the important things is to trim it so that it stays low, because this one wants to go 60 feet all the time. It wants to go 60 feet. And you know, if I let it, then I've created something that doesn't fit here. So, you know, tend it is what I always try to remember. Now this tree, if you look, there's a live stream where I showed when this tree was collapsed upon by a giant 40-foot Hawaiian papaya that was used to be here, which has been completely consumed by the fungus and the soil. It's just, I just chopped it up, put the logs down, and it has been absolutely eaten by the soil, the worms, the fungus, the whatever. So very interesting how that all works. But it collapsed and it broke off half of this moringa tree. This is the moringa tree. By the way, Dave Reed's got lots of these at his farm if you're looking to get one. And they call it the cotton candy tree. It's a very beautiful tree. And of course, if you're frequent to the channel, you know I talk about this one quite a bit because I love it. But it has a very aromatic smell to it. It smells almost like a cotton candy, I don't know, sweet smell to it. And the fruit tastes like cotton candy, and it produces these beautiful flowers that are almost constantly covered with bees. If you look around this tree, it's just, there's 100 bees probably buzzing around it, all doing their thing. I love that too. Of course, another part of this, right? I can't make a bee. Bees need to just show up. So if you build it, and they're here, and they're pollinating this, and they're pollinating everything else. So this is a real natural environment where a lot of things can show up. You know, where I live, it's a beachside, barrier island, and it's a lot of residential space. And you know, as I look around at people's yards and so on, what I see is a lot of landscaping and so on, but I don't see a lot of edible things. I don't see a lot of this stuff. Maybe they have a mango tree, maybe they have another thing, but it's in a very manicured lawn, etc. So there's not this you know, opportunity. So my yard just becomes an absolute magnet for all these creatures, the pollinators, the squirrels. We've even got a turtle we call Tommy the turtle, who has been around. Maybe we'll see him today, but he's been in this backyard for over 20 years. The same turtle. We know because of a marking on his shell. He or she, I don't know how to determine that, but has just been existing here for all that time. To me, that's wild. It's a box turtle. It's wild that turtle can, you know, has enough resources to exist here, and it does. You know, these berries that are dropping, even the sprinklers that I do irrigate the lawn. You know, I'm imagining in the evening, I was like, how does Tommy get water? Well, probably goes around and drinks the water from the sprinklers in the evening and can survive through. But I'm sure turtles could survive drought periods, or you know, they've evolved to do that. But the point is that we have all these creatures and critters that live back here that I believe are here because it's abundant. And it's become much more abundant now that we are providing the fuel, the bunny manure, that everything needs to eat. Put the bunny manure in the soil, worms eat the bunny manure, they provide the castings fuel all kinds of growth and fertilizer for the plants and the roots, they aerate the soil. The fungus also provides a certain kind of connectivity, I've come to find out. And this fungus you'll just see everywhere, without any doubt. I saw another one of those fungus that I thought you might think is interesting. Depending on what this fungus grows out of it, it takes on a different color. I don't know if this is the same kind, but yeah, really interesting. There's another one, you know, all over the place. Now this Biden's alba, it produces these seeds, and and why is it everywhere? Well, because these seeds are just prolific. And I do want to grow it everywhere. Again, if it grows in and covers a space too much, I can easily trim it up and throw it into the chicken run and they will consume it. Or I can put it in the compost bin and it will become soil. So nothing here is wasted. We've definitely slacked on egg harvesting over the years, recently. And I mean, like, don't sweat it is what we always, you might think, oh, I'm wasting the eggs if I have to collect, 20 or 30 eggs out of the chicken run that I didn't consume, and we're not going to eat them, that's a waste. It's not a waste. What we do, Jack and I, my son Jack, is we put them in a bucket. We come over here, or there's another spot in the yard, and we dig a hole. We had a couple that broke. We put them in here the other day, but you can see there's a little hole here. And we throw them in the hole. We break them up, and then we bury them. And that's not a waste, not at all. When we just dug this hole a few days ago, it was swarming with worms. There were so many earthworms, I couldn't believe it. If you don't have worms, you don't have a healthy soil environment. You must have worms. They're an essential part of the whole system. And worms need the same things that we need. They need food and water. And the food is the bunny manure, and the water is essentially the sprinklers that we get them through the rough patch. But also providing places where they can live that have shade and cover. I'm not buying like artificial mulch anymore, and I'm also not throwing yard waste out hardly ever to the curb, because everything goes back in. As you can see here, these are bamboo leaves and oak leaves that provide that cover that retains the moisture. If I dug in here, we're gonna find worms there, and I love that. Again, some more of that Baienzaba. Hey, Stacy Sella, welcome aboard. Stacy Sella says, "Shalom, stranger. Shalom to you, and thank you for coming. I'm so happy you're here, Stacy. Welcome, welcome, welcome." This is a tamarind tree, and again, many of you who have been frequent friends of the channel will recognize these things. I'm hoping you'll be able to see where they've been since the last time you looked at it. Well, this one's received many scoops of the turds, and it is doing great. This is a tamarind tree. This is a sour tamarind. There's two types of tamarind that I'm aware of, sweet and sour. and I like them both. Went to a local grocery store that sells fresh tamarind fruit, and the seeds from this, I finally got them to sprout. I figured out how to do that, and I've got some videos on that, but yeah, happy to see that thing going. I know down in South Florida they can almost become a nuisance because they really are very prolific. Here in Central Florida, we're right on the edge of the subtropical zone, so it is a little bit more challenging. They're very susceptible to freeze, etc. Look at this. Look at this. Does it really get any better than a coconut tree to give you that tropical feeling? This is a a green Malay dwarf coconut, meaning it won't get that tall, but it will get just as wide, which is not a problem. It's just something to know if you put it in and when I come out the front door, or the back door rather, I see this visually. And when I plant things, I also think like I'm painting a landscape for my eyes in the future. I get to see this beautiful tropical coconut tree. And also, if any of this stuff was in the wrong place, don't sweat it. Just saw it down, lay it on the ground somewhere, and I guarantee it will be consumed. Might take a year, but you, me, and the coconut tree, you lay it on the ground long enough and you just disappear back into what you came from. But this is absolute delicious coconuts. I love coconuts, and I had a couple of these years ago, and they did produce a lot of coconuts, more than enough coconuts to give away, to eat. The coconut water is filled with electrolytes. If you pick them green, they're also amazing. Soft coconut flesh, meat, whatever you want to call it, is delicious. But yeah, coconut. So this will be an abundant producer. It's just getting started, little baby. I bought these years ago at a nursery down in Wabasso, Florida. A tree for me, I think it's a tree for me is what it's called. Like they have this house, and the whole house is surrounded with all kinds of really cool plants. That's another great place. I wish I could remember the name exactly, but I mean, if you're in Wabasso, Florida, you're winning. That's a great place to be as well. This thing, another fig tree. Isn't it beautiful? Different than the brown turkey, very different than the brown turkey. Now, I have not gotten any fruit from this yet. This is a type of fig tree which produces figs, I'm told, the size of a tennis ball. Now, that's going to be something to see. When I plant fig trees, they always kind of get off to a slow start. They're a form of ficus tree, so I say ficus, I don't like it. I don't like the actual ficus tree because of the roots and how they just can go in and get under your house and break up your plumbing and all that kind of stuff. So they can be a real problem, the ficus tree, but the fig, not so much. But the fig, in terms of it doesn't destroy stuff, but it does have some of the same properties. It's a very root-centered tree, meaning that if you tried to transplant a full-size fig tree, it's unlikely it would survive, because what it does is put long roots. I mean, it just goes. It'll send these long roots. I'll find a root from this thing probably over by that bed there if I traced it. So it creates this wide network of roots, which is a common thing with ficus trees, is you'll see, all the aerial roots dipping down that can make really cool structures, almost buttressed limbs from the roots that hang down and then form into like almost a season. Happy to announce figs. And figs happening in a totally different place than on that other tree, but I can see there's a number of them. I've seen this tree full size, and with the large fig, so I believe it can do it, and I was wondering when it would happen. We're finally there. I cannot wait to taste one of these. And it's a matter of time. Wish we had a cherry I could show you on this moringa tree, but I don't. Now, this is a sweet tamarind tree that I purchased at that nursery down in Wabasso, and it's doing pretty well, I would say, for being almost completely overgrown by this mango tree, but I'm going to let it do what it does, and I think eventually this will give me tamarind. I haven't gotten any tamarind fruit yet, but I know if I have faith, just keep feeding it the nutrients, it'll eventually give me something. So really looking forward to that one coming along. You might know that I had almost all of my papaya trees knocked down by various wind events, which is natural. They get to a certain size and they don't have very strong roots and they tip over. So, and by the way, when they come down like a paper cutter. They actually have a lot of, meaning they'll just break through like this tree. They'll break through whatever when they come down. So you probably don't have it right next to your house or right next to your neighbor's fence or whatever, or a power line. If you have the giant Hawaiian variety, which I have, just got seeds from a grocery store papaya, and but I've been able to keep from that initial alpha papaya, I've been able to keep papayas growing. So this is another papaya tree. Now, papayas are male and female, so don't worry, you will have male papayas somewhere in your neighborhood if you're in Florida, so you don't have to worry about that part. But the females are the ones that produce the fruit, obviously, and look, beautiful papayas. Now, I learned another thing, so many things, 100 things on the, way more than 100 things when I was with Dave last time, but one of the things I learned was that there's a way to process these papayas. What happens is most people are planting these and then they taste one, it really doesn't taste that great, kind of has like a latex in it, a white latex sap that is not that pleasant, and it can be a little bitter. Well, what Dave showed me is with his thumbnail or just with a little knife, you just score around it, just kind of cut the flesh all around the fruit and let it bleed out the latex, and then when you harvest it, it's more like a cucumber. It has none of that harsh taste to it, so it makes it a really great vegetable. That day that I walked around with Dave at his farm, we picked over 30 types of plants over the course of that day. 30 types of plants, including the Biden's alba, including papaya, and at the end of it, we came back and chopped it all up and into a salad. And then he also had some ginger that he was growing, and had some garlic he had grown, and made an incredible salad dressing, and we ate that salad. I got a rush of energy. It felt like I drank 2 energy drinks. I mean, it was immediately felt a rush of energy. And here's the other thing, and I'm not making any claims. When I jumped on the scale the next morning, I had lost 2 pounds. So I don't know what that's all about. I'm just saying, it's like, wow. Okay, let's look at the comments. Scott E, welcome Scott E. Stoked you're with us. He says, hello from the Space Coast. Oh, excellent. A local. Great live stream. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that compliment tremendously. I enjoy the content. Thanks. Oh, I'm super stoked. That, yeah, all of the folks that are on here with these awesome comments, that makes my day. So happy about that. Thanks, Scott. Rocket Man says, you grown starfruit before? Are they cold? Are they any cold hardy? Well, yes, I do have a starfruit tree. We'll go over and take a look at that now. And it's done very well. It's a prolific producer. I mean, just, again, more fruit than you can possibly eat. I don't know the variety. There are a lot of varieties of starfruit, and they range from, you know, so not that great, like not a lot of flavor, to really, really good. The one I've got, I'd say, is more towards the really good end of the spectrum. We'll go take a look at it, starfruit tree. Now, here's another phenomenon, the grass. You know, St. Augustine grass. I love it, actually. It requires a lot of water, but it's great. It's kind of a spongy feel. It's nice and green. And what we do is, when football season starts, typically, we start playing throwing catch out in this backyard big time, and we just absolutely wear holes and destroy all the grass. The great reasons for having grass. It's just for us, right? And then we give it a break, usually into the winter, whatever, and let it grow back. And it's in that period of regrowth, and what you'll see is that the sends out these runners. We used to call it crabgrass, but that tendency to send out runners like that, but it will send them out and repopulate this whole area. So this will be all green again. I love the process of watching it come back. We also had allowed the shade back here to really block out a lot of the shade, make it very like an understory of a forest kind of deal. And I'm just getting out of the sun. If I stay in the sun too long, I start to get cooked. But yeah, it comes back. Now, of course, again, just being repetitive, but it's really the key that unlocks all doors in this permaculture situation, which is the bunny manure. So what did I do over the winter? Well, I just flung bunny manure everywhere, all throughout here. That's the only reason that you see this brown color here, because the real color of the soil here is something more like this. Beach sand. My yard is beach sand. You know, there's no organic matter in it whatsoever. If you dig down a foot or so, you get into just a more yellow form of sand, but it is absolutely vacant. So that's another reason why anything organic I put here with the worms, they will eat it up. They will eat it up, and they'll turn it into worm castings, which just boosts everything in your yard. Man, I'm just going to express it. I love that. I love the connection of all things. One of Alan Watts, one of my favorite philosophers, one of the things his ideas was the illusion of separateness. You know, and it, again, sounds very hippy dippy, but like there is no separation. All things are connected. I don't believe it. I know it. And how do I know it? Just look. You know, look everywhere you look. You can see that it's true. And it's a very, in my opinion, a very relaxing and calming thing to think about, to meditate on. That, you know, there's no real problem. Everything's just fine. And that to me is a good idea. So, didn't forget. Now I know these live streams are very much just like meandering around from topic to topic with no apparent purpose, and that's because that's exactly what it is. I'm not doing this for any reason other than I hope you get something out of it. And if you do, I'm stoked. It's like winning the lottery. So here's the starfruit tree. And this is one of those times where it doesn't have flowers on it right now, but it will. It will produce, on the conservative side, 300 starfruit over the next year, 300, maybe 400 starfruit. Most of them will end up falling on the ground. And as you look on the ground and be eaten by the worms and be turned back into soil, so it's not waste. If you look on the ground here, we have things. I was inside the house earlier. You hear this boom on the roof, and then it rolls off. That's these mangoes. These are Tommy Atkins mangoes. You might think, oh, why are they falling off? Well, what happens is they fall off because, I think, because, you know, the branch will sustain 1 or 2 mangoes, and the ones that are less viable just drops. So you could actually take these, wash them off, put them on the counter, and they will ripen, and you could eat these mangoes. So if you wanted to, you can eat them. They won't go to waste though. Like I said, we'll leave many of them there and they'll just back in, but most of them we just chuck, the sophisticated technique of chucking fruit into the bed to be eaten. This is another Persian mulberry, very easy to grow from cuttings. And look what we have here. A little bit careful. Oh, this is really cool. A little bit careful to go just like grabbing onto leaves when I see caterpillar things, because there are a number of highly venomous caterpillars that live in my general vicinity. There's the saddleback caterpillar, there's the IO caterpillar. Not that long ago, about 2 months ago, I encountered a sting from an IO caterpillar, which is like this bright green yellow caterpillar. I brushed up against it on a palm tree when I was walking by a palm tree, and it tagged my arm and stung. And I'll tell you what, it's the kind of sting that takes your breath away. Like it makes your heart race immediately, and it's like, oh, just, you have to catch your breath because it was that painful. So yeah, I do try to keep my eyes open so as to not experience that while I'm on the live stream. If I'm going to lift the thing up where I see a caterpillar, we could find them eventually, and it's probably not the one, the poisonous one, but just in case. What I did see here was a ladybug. Ah, there we have it. Ladybug. Doing the work. Lion of the bug kingdom. Doing the work. Now, what do you do when your tree starts to be consumed by caterpillars? You don't need to do anything. Why would you? There's another ladybug. Yeah, the system's working itself out. Now, if I had to subsist on these, what I would do is I would just try to find the caterpillars and I would pick them off and kill them. And they would be fertilizer. But I'm not that worried about it. Because this tree is meant to be trimmed. All of this stuff, whether the caterpillars eat it and turn it into caterpillar poo or whatever, it's all going back into the same place. And I don't want this tree to be very high. I'll keep this one trimmed low. What I want is a lot of branches. On any fruit tree, I want a lot of branches. I want as many branches as possible, because every time I trim this thing, it's going to produce more shoots, and those shoots are all going to have, in the case of the mulberry, all these will activate. They'll put a shoot out, and the first 4 or 5 nodes that branch that grows out will contain mulberries. So if I want fruit on this within the next month, all I need to do is trim all these back. And what I'll do is, this tall one, it's going in the compost bin, going back in the chicken run. The bunnies will eat this mulberry wood. They love the mulberries too. So all this is edible. And I cycle it back in, but I'll get fruit out of it. Now, you're providing it with the nutrients through the manure to know that it's going to bloom forward. And oh, here's another fun fact about using animal manures on your fruit trees. The fruit tastes so good. Like, I'm still thinking back on that mulberry I ate earlier. It is delicious. And the reason is, it's getting that manure that makes the fruit taste good. It makes everything good. Right next to the Persian mulberry, another ever-bearing mulberry tree. Now, this one seems a little bit less susceptible to the caterpillar damage, but you can see it's got some caterpillar damage on it too. I guess we could call it damage. It's more just like part of the larger system that's at play here. I'm looking around to see if I could see any of the caterpillars. It's always interesting to see what shows up in the yard. Over the years, I've become pretty familiar with the common that are here, and always wonder if I'll encounter something new. All right, let's look in the comments again. Okay, so we looked at the star fruit. Oh, thanks, Rocket Man. He says, very cool. Rocket Man also said, how about dragon fruit? Do they grow in Florida? Yes, indeed, dragon fruit. I've got a yellow dragon fruit. We were looking at it earlier. We'll try and take a look at it a little bit more here in a second. But yeah, all kinds of cactus will grow in Florida. This is one type. Oh, man, the name's going to escape me. Thinking. I can't quite remember the name, but this is a very common cactus that was actually developed, I think, by some university to be a type of cactus which would grow, prolifically as a food source. It's an edible cactus. You can take these pads off, scrape them down, and eat them. They're delicious. They taste like a cucumber, but they kind of have the sliminess of of an okra. But yeah, all edible, delicious. But anyway, what they realized was they required a decent amount of water. Well, they grow great. And this one, if you take any one of these pads, plant it, you're off and running. And yeah, so that's another good one. They produce a prickly pear, you know, a little pear-shaped fruit you could also eat. More trouble than it's worth, in my opinion. Let's take a look at it. Why not? My neighbor had a big tree here, but they chopped it down recently, so now all this stuff's getting full. Yeah, there's one of the pears. I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to get the little... I said I'm not going to touch it as I touched it. Do you see that? But yeah, they produce these beautiful flowers. Night bloom ceres, I think, is that what it is? I think that's what it is. But yeah, this is a classic area. Surfboards, of course, beach lifestyle. Crotons, gold croton. These are all grown from cuttings. Every see here was grown from a cutting from something else in the yard. Got aloe, varieties of aloe. Even have a papaya tree that was given, not a papaya, a guava tree. It's a guava tree. It's doing so-so, but I don't really expect it to. But this was a mulberry tree. It looks like it gave up the go, but that's all great carbon. And fertilizer, again, just put it on the ground and let the system do its work. This is a beautiful variety of croton I got 30 years ago that I've just been propagating everywhere. More of the Dracaena that I referred to. This is a kind called Song of India, which is incredibly beautiful in my opinion. This variegated look. There are so many types of Dracaena. It's just a great type of plant. We've got a areca palm growing there. My areca palm that's growing here is starting to get fruit on it. It's another edible type of palm fruit. Tastes like bananas, in my opinion, but not a lot of, you know, they're pretty small. And yeah, so just a lot of stuff. Here's another variety of aloe. At one point I had 6 or 7 types of aloe growing in my yard. This is what we call around here frangipani. Some of you might call it, what do they call it? Varieties of plumeria. You know, one of the things I love to do is collect those over the years, but the flowers, I don't think they make a flower that is more beautiful smelling than plumeria. They just have this incredible fragrance to them, and I love to pick them and smell them and grow them, and they're all over the many of the things we consider to be a common inside or house plant, whatever that means, will, if planted in the ground, grow into a thing. Like this. This is a type, you probably recognize it if you're not from a tropical place. You probably recognize it from, you know, in Walmart or something like that, or in a, you know, house plant type of thing. Well, you plant it here, and it's growing up this tree, and it'll get these giant tropical leaves. This is growing up what is called a soft tip yucca. Many types of yucca. Yucca produce flowers, which are these white petaled flowers that you can eat the flowers. They taste sort of like an almond. Really good. There's many types of yucca. Spanish bayonet is one type, and Spanish bayonet named so because if you do this to Spanish bayonet, you would insert it into your finger, and it has actually a numbing, almost a chemical on it that once you insert it in, it will actually, yeah, it's wild. This is soft tip, so that's why I have it. Years ago, I realized that I did not want to have things in my yard that could hurt me or my children, like anything that has huge thorns on it, anything that has real, you know, could poke their eye, or why have it? It just seemed like silly. And so I went through the process. I eradicated all that kind of stuff and replaced it with, in some cases, versions of those plants that don't have the potential to injure people unintentionally. Here's another interesting one, and we'll stop and look at the comments here in a second. If you have something you'd like to say, I encourage you to pop it in the chat. That's what this is all about. This is a community here. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's input is encouraged. This is a schefflera. This is what they call dwarf schefflera. Another good example of like basically a house plant, you know, type of thing. But they grow very easily from a cutting. How did I plant this? I just cut a cutting and I jammed it there. And now it's this, and it's getting a little bit overgrown. I'll just trim it back. What I trim back, again, becomes the fuel. Just to see. Now this isn't for everybody. If you're high structure and order type, this probably makes you a little nervous. I've definitely got that vibe in me too. like here's a cutting that this is the typical practice. I cut this off the Persian mulberry and just kind of threw it there. It's starting to decompose. I'll put it right there so it can just continue its journey to the other side. But that is a Robolini that I had growing near my back deck that started to die, and so I sawed it down and I threw it there. And that's all I did. Just sawed it down, threw it in the shade here, and it is slowly but surely breaking down and turning back into soil. And it will completely turn back into soil eventually, but if you imagine the bug, fungus world that exists within this, it's its own universe basically at this point. And I believe it's that kind of casual way of gardening that really is when you're starting to plug into the true permaculture way of life. And it's always encouraging to see that. Now, it takes time. It also reminds me that things take time, but everything ends well. While we're here, let's look at something really basic that maybe you'd overlook. Everything that I walk on, I can see a use for. Everything I can see a use for. Look at this. What's that? You might call it a dandelion. You might call it a weed. I don't know, whatever symbol you want to associate with this, but I don't need to call it anything. I'll call it food. I'll call it a piece of the whole, maybe. Maybe you don't call it anything. Maybe you just pick it, and we'll do a little experiment here and see how doing this kind of stuff transitions things you might have thought were a problem, and I assure you it's not a problem, something you had to eradicate or control, into something that is a beautiful connective tissue to something you love. Like I love these little bunnies. To be safe and healthy. Hey, Bunzo. Healthy? Oh, you could see it. I believe she could smell. She knows. I feed her at least every day. I feed her a collection of fresh things. I know exactly what these bunnies. You might think bunnies would eat anything. They will definitely not eat anything. They will eat the things they like. So pretty cool how they've got their own little personalities. But look how she's like, oh, please give me that. You like that? Yeah. Now look at that. Man, this is bunny heaven. These little flowers, that's the favorite part. Oh yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's always funny to me when they flop like that or they jump back. You know, bunnies are jumpy. Who would have guessed? Something about seeing those little bunny lips just work on in the weeds. I don't know, there's lots of ways to relax. Maybe I'm simple-minded, but this is enough for me. I should have brought more. That's what she's saying. That's it. There's one for you, Thumper. By the way, Thumper is Penelope's brother. And we've been feeding them fresh greens ever since they were little kits. Yep, doing well. I'll get you down here later. Now, these bunnies are so interesting too because with me, they're actually a little timid of me when they're down on the ground. Like if I go towards them, they'll kind of hop away. Not like they're terrified, but they kind of hop away. Interesting thing is when my wife is around them, they hop to her. And I think that's because some of the times they've gotten out in the yard and they pass dark, because sometimes we'll just let them run around in the yard, honestly. And they don't go anywhere. They used to try to dig, but they really don't now. And we know kind of the bush they'll sleep under or what they do. And you know, but then it gets dark and we don't want them to be out at night so they get eaten or something. So, oh, sorry, you made me jumpy. I have been bitten by these rabbits, not because they meant to bite, just because they were afraid. I was catching them at night. I had them cornered and they kind of, so, yeah, which, you know, that's not fun when that happens, but you didn't do it on purpose. But, yeah, so I've had to catch them and, you know, corner them and get them up. And, you know, I think that scared them and that's why they sort of hop away. But yes, the bunny fertilizer, okay, I see a comment. I'm going to jump down to it here on RS that says that, is there a certain type of rabbit that makes the right kind of fertilizer? Can any bunny produce it? Yeah, any bunny can produce the right kind of fertilizer. I mean, they all produce high nutrient fertilizer that's a cold fertilizer. In other words, you can put it directly on your plants, no problem, unlike cow manure, horse manure, etc., which is hot and will burn the plants because of the, it needs to be composted prior. Even chicken manure needs to be composted. You can't put it direct on plants. It will kill them, typically. So any bunny will do it, and bunnies range from these little bunnies like this one. Penelope's probably about maybe a 5-pounder, maybe. She's so sweet. But yeah, so they produce a manageable amount of bunny manure. There are many types. Some grow 12, 15, even more pounds, and actually can make great pets, meaning they're real affectionate. Penelope's just one of these rabbits that loves to be pet, and I know exactly where she likes to be pet the most. What I like to do is I'll rub their jaw, the muscle in their jaw, because they chew so much. I can tell she likes that. Thumper's always been kind of skittish, sort of come up on him slow. But yeah, these brother and sister have been here for a long time. All right, so yeah, good little side detour, which is everything that you see. So when I see weeds growing around, now I think, oh, bunny food. 20 years ago, I thought, oh, nuisance, weed. Look, it's not supposed to be there. I thought that for a long time, for some reason. Now I think, oh, it's great. I could feed it to the bunnies. I could put it in the compost bin, etc. So amazing. Now, speaking of the compost bin, since we've been talking about the compost bin, we've got so many things that we could dive into today. We'll see how long this goes. Let's see, how long have I been doing it? 67 minutes. All right, well, keep going. We got 9 people on the stream. 3 thumbs up. Hey, if you like this stream, go ahead, smash that thumbs up button. That helps, I'm told, with the Googie algorithm, and I always like that. Apparently that helps to get the word out to more people. Compost bins. Yeah, no, I have these Lowe's buckets that I have everywhere. They used to collect the turds, whatever. But the reason we leave them like that is because if they're not like that, the mosquitoes will grow in the water, and we want less mosquitoes. But these little sections in here will also trap the water and grow mosquitoes. So it's like a thing of, if you're going to leave them outside, make sure the water doesn't stay sitting there for long. But simple way, if you're interested in getting into composting, you don't need to build any complicated. This is the same thing for chickens. You don't need to build a complicated. You can just get wire and plywood as a roof, and they'll do pretty there with that. Same thing here is, you don't have to overthink it. This is just a hoop of wire I bought at Lowe's, a 3-foot tall by whatever, the standard animal wire, and you just connect it and make a hoop, put stuff in it. End of lesson. And it works great. And as a matter of fact, what I found on these compost bins is it takes a while for them to fill, because what I've discovered is underneath each one of these compost bins is like a worm city. So, and the worms are constantly eating it from the bottom. They're constantly eating it, so it just goes down and down and down. It's almost like a worm feeder, honestly. And when you get the soil out, it is loaded with worms and filled with worm castings. So it's really like a hoop of garbage, but it's an absolute key subsystem in this larger system of systems that I'm managing here. And it's got every manner of stuff in it. It's got a little bit of a areca palm in it. It's got some that moringa branches. You want both the leaf and the wood in there, because the wood is the carbon. So you want everything in there, but everything will get consumed. The wood, all of it, with the fungus and the bacteria and the worms. It's all going to be broken down over time. You can see it gets these kind of like cavities in it sometimes, and eventually they collapse, the weight of things. We just keep putting it in. Like this one about 2 weeks ago was up to about here, and now it's down. The water gets on it, whatever. This stuff that you see is the pine shavings that are the bedding for the chickens, that are infused with the chicken manure, and we put it in here and in layers. So we'll put, every time we clean it, which is about every week or 2, we'll clean out that chicken coop, and we take the pine shavings and put them in here. And so it's layer after layer after layer, so much nutrients, and you can see the pieces of wood. All that just becomes part of this this larger clump of organic matter that's consistently being consumed. And here's another one of those Persian mulberries growing. And you'll notice this one doesn't have any leaf damage from caterpillars whatsoever. It has a broken branch there I can see, but yeah, so really the pests so-called pests, they're caterpillars, the consumers of leaves, I really found you let them have their way with one thing in your yard, like here's a Persian mulberry, behind us is a Persian mulberry, and then over there is that Persian mulberry that's getting munched by the caterpillars. Let them have it. Yeah, munch away. And what I found is that typically you won't see that the caterpillars are there and there and there. They're there. And yeah, so for what that's worth, I found that to work pretty well. It's like the kind of the don't sweat it mentality. All right, let's look at the comments. I want to make sure that I address them. I appreciate you putting the comments in there, certainly, and I want to make sure I get to all of them. Rocket Man says also, how about the dragon fruit? That's right, you'd asked about the dragon fruit. Let's look at dragon fruit again, just real quick. Take a look. I'm trellising it up this shadow box fencing that I put in here for the bunny run, and it has been somewhat overshadowed by this plant. We call it stinkweed, but this awesome plant that we were talking about that's edible and so wonderful. But here, this is dragon fruit growing up. Now in my front yard, I have a sea grape tree which I've grown as a sort of living trellis, and I have it growing up that, and that one has produced fruit many, many times. And again, the three types of dragon fruit are the yellow and the red. Red has two types, one with flesh, one with white flesh. And probably if you buy them in the grocery store, you get the kind that has if you have them in your local grocery store, we have them here. It has a red, it's the red kind, and it's the kind with the white flesh, and then they have the little black seeds in them. And you can grow them from those seeds, but most easily you can grow them from a cutting. Here's a little tip for you if you're considering growing some dragon fruit. If you can get a hold of some cuttings, that's probably one of the best ways to go. But if you're going to plant a dragon fruit, don't just plant one. Plant 10, plant 20, because same thing with a banana tree, banana plant, same thing with a pineapple, same thing with so many things, which is, it's not really a specimen, it's a collection. So if you plant one dragon fruit plant and it produces 3 or 4 dragon fruit in 3 or 4 years, well, that's not very rewarding if what you're trying to get is fruit. So if you plant 10, well, then when they come in, you may have, an exponential amount. So that's to me really the key for enjoying stuff like this is, plant a bunch of them. And I'll probably trim this back. The reason I haven't trimmed this back, and it's gone to this, I love this look of it. It actually doesn't have a bad smell now. When they were all blooming, it did have that strong odor, but now it isn't. I think I'm just waiting to see what this thing really does, because I haven't had it for a long period of time, but it produces these beautiful, puffy, white, ornate things when the flowers are done. But because there were so many monarch butterflies, all types of butterflies flying around here, I didn't want to trim it back. I kind of wanted to let that go. But I'm thinking once I get to the point where it's mostly all done flowering, I'll trim it way back, take that matter, and probably chuck it in the chicken pen, and they'll eat it up. Let's take a look at this. This is that Biden's album plant I was talking about. It's probably, you could probably throw a stone and hit it somewhere in your neighborhood. You might have thought it was a weed, but again, it is absolutely edible, good for you, and produces these cool yellow flowers. And I've noticed the butterflies and the bees love it. So, really neat. And you don't need, again, anything but the bunny manure. I see it. Bees flying all around it. Love it. All right, let's keep looking around and see what we can get into here. Keep going on the chat. Okay, Zahava. Welcome, Zahava. Stoked you're here. Greetings from New Jersey. Ah, my home state. Welcome from New Jersey. I love that. The Garden State. The Garden State. Yes, I grew up on a farm in New Jersey, in a little town called Pennington. If you're familiar with that, it's about halfway between Trenton and Princeton, if you know where that is. But Beautiful farm country. Some of the, I'll tell you, the soil that was there on my grandfather's farm where I was a sweet. You could take a handful of that stuff and smell it, and it was like, it smelled like rich, just unbelievable. Now, the area is covered by a corporate complex. It's to me, in some ways, very sad. But change is natural. I'm not going to on that. But my point is that, yeah, New Jersey is really just a cool place if you get to know it. I really love your backyard. Thank you so much for that. I'm stoked you do. Blessings to you and your loved ones. So thank you so much. Same to you. Blessings to everybody on this stream and your loved ones. I hope you have health, prosperity, and increasing serenity in every step of your life. I really do mean that. All right, this, I'll admit, is from a cutting I got once while I was at Disney World. A giant ginger plant. But this this is uh, this is a form of ginger which grows huge. But ginger is a great plant to grow. You can grow it from just going to the grocery store and buying a piece of ginger and planting it, and it'll grow quite well. And you can see back there that there's a lot of those ginger plants growing. It's growing right up into the undercarriage of the mango and kind of all blended together. It's a type of plant that grows pretty well in a understory environment, so I really like that. I love the fact that these leaves are absolutely gigantic, much bigger than the typical. If I wanted to harvest it, I could back there and dig up the roots, and maybe I'll do that now that I'm talking about it. I was talking about that salad dressing that Dave Reed made, and I thought that would be pretty interesting to reproduce at some point. One of the coolest things about ginger, though, is the ginger flower. You might have seen like a good Chinese food restaurant or something that this kind of beautiful pattern, but look at that. I hope that you can see this. Is that just unbelievable? I'm gonna smell it. It smells so good. So good. And then let's do the check. It's edible. You can eat it. In case you didn't know what edible means. Try it. Chickens will just try just about anything, but I see. I love the pecking order. If one of the hens on the lower in the hierarchy puts her head out when she shouldn't, she gets a peck right on the face. Chicken life. Yeah, they're really not that into it. Interesting. But just put it there and it'll disappear. This is a sea grape. Let's walk back in the labyrinth here. This is a sea grape. Another fascinating plant. Absolutely fascinating plant, in my opinion. Do you see the red in the veins here? That's actually a form of dye. I've been told that the Native Americans had used this for dye. I don't know if that's true, but it is a beautiful thing about this plant is just the veins, the leaves themselves. They're very rigid. It's a very rigid plate. I've also heard that in India, they use this as a ceremonial plate of sorts, that they use this as a plate. And it makes perfect sense because it actually feels almost like a paper plate. So really cool. They drop a lot of leaves like this, and so you'll see them down on the ground all over. So if that's a problem for you, then this is probably not a good one for you. But what I do is I just tend to collect them up, and you can see where I put them all. And I put them back in there. And then the chickens do all the rest. The chickens will eventually turn them into dirt. They'll just scratch at them, peck at them, and before you know it, they're gone. Anything you put back here, I have put so much yard waste back in the chicken run, and where is it? It's gone. The chickens do their work. They are busy hens. They are hard at work all the time, doing exactly what they do. We're getting at the time of day almost where they'll find their favorite shady spot to just kind of sit and sleep, and you'll see if you come back here, you'll find sleeping chickens. If my wife comes back here, they are immediately all standing at full attention because they know they're about ready to get a treat, but since I don't, a real good treat like a hot dog chopped up into bits or something like that, that is just like the best treat a chicken ever could dream of. When I'm giving them treats, it's mostly like greens or ginger flowers or stuff like that, so they're not quite as excited to see me. I don't mind that so much, as just to say that when I come back, I will typically find later in the day a bunch of chickens sleeping around in the shade. Now, we haven't had any problems with predation on these chickens yet. We had a possum that came in and attacked them a little bit, but let me tell you, these chickens bonded together and banded together, and they attacked that possum, where I think that possum barely got out with its own life, scurried away. But other than that, and I read about that, like what's up with the possums, and chickens, will they eat chickens? And what I determined was it seemed like they would only eat the chickens if they were really starving, or if they were already starving, they might be driven to try to eat a chicken. I think that's probably what happened. So, whatever, but haven't had any problems since then. Haven't had any problems with cats. It would be a heck of a cat that would dare to challenge these chickens, because they are no slouches on self-defense. They come together, and to see what they did to that possum is they all just flapping their wings and making the biggest noise and pecking as hard as they possibly can right at that possum's head. And animals get the message pretty quick, I think, when that kind of thing's going on. So now, they will not stand a chance to a peregrine falcon or a raccoon, of course, but for some reason the raccoons haven't seemed to take much of a liking here. But we're out in this yard all the time, and if you're out in your area, a lot of animals, the smaller ones, tend to not want to be around there just because you're there. So I think that has some probably effect. But the other thing is, they've got a very, very nice cover here. So hawks and falcons and things, they can't really see down to see what's going on here. And so they're able to relax in the heat of the day and just enjoy what is probably something like chicken paradise. I mean, they have a huge space back here for 5 chickens to just wander around. They're searching for bugs now. Peck at whatever bugs are still remaining. Eat whatever little sprouts, any sprout that you won't see anything growing on the ground here, because anything that grows up, they immediately eat it. Isn't that right? All right, let's see here. What do we got going on for comments? Okay, so Rocketman says, tried biochar in your sandy soil. Great comment, Rocketman. Yes, I have used some biochar, and that's another amazing additive to the soil that I would like to do more of. I haven't had a lot of fires to harvest it from, but I did consider converting some of the oak branches into biochar. Of course, smoke on oak. When you burn an oak log, it's going to burn for a long time. But yeah, that anytime you can harvest char and put it around burned wood, yeah, I think you're doing the right thing, and it's going to turbocharge everything you grow. So it's a great thing to think about. All right, let's see. Okay, where did you get your bunnies? All right, so, pet shop, any recommendations? Yes, I would recommend to go to Funky Chicken Farms in Palm Bay, Florida, or to the Reed Farm. Yep, that's what I would recommend. But there's probably other places you can get bunnies. They typically refer to bunnies in a couple different ways, a couple different levels of bunnies. The larger bunnies, the kinds that they grow agriculturally for meat, bunny meat is very popular in a lot of countries, and actually, if you've ever had it, it's, in my opinion, far superior to chicken from the grocery store. But I think, I've never had bunny from the grocery store, but the point is that they call the larger bunnies typically meat rabbits, but that type of rabbit, and they're typically highly domesticated, so they're not skittish. They make great pets. They produce a high quantity of fertilizer. If you look up, meat rabbits, or you look up agricultural rabbits, etc., that's a good way to go. There's a pretty good network of people that raise bunnies. If you're interested in having a type of, if you're interested in growing your own and having your own meat production in your backyard, that is without a doubt would be what I pick, just because it's rather clean. I don't do it, but you know, if I ever was going to do it, I think that's what I would do. And I think it would be a very hard curve for me to be on to go to the point where I'm actually doing that, just because I'm disconnected. Oh, look at that. See that one hen? She's getting ready. She's in full chill mode. But they say just a small collection of bunnies, you can easily get 50 pounds of meat, 70 pounds of meat a month from just a couple breeding pairs of rabbits. Of course, yeah, my rabbits, they just live in a life of relaxation and protection and plenty. So they're no danger being eaten by me or by any other predator. Which is kind of nice for them. All right, let's look at, and nice for me too. All right, this is a Suriname cherry tree, friends. Look at that. That's a Suriname cherry. Now, it looks almost like a pumpkin, doesn't it? Like a little pumpkin. They call it Chinese lantern plant. Some people do. So it looks like a Chinese lantern. But there are red cherries. If you see up there, those two red cherries. I was hoping I could pick one just to show everybody. And again, if you're a friend of the channel, been here before, you know I've shown this many times. All right, let's get this one down a little lower. I just want to be able to show you what they look like. Some folks don't like them. I'm going to pick it so you can get a better look. Let's get in the sun here. That is a Suriname cherry. This one's a little beat up from the wind, but I love the flavor of them. I'd say if what you're expecting is a Bing cherry, you will be disappointed. I love them. And they produce a pit about like this. And that pit will propagate very easily. Again, in South Florida, considered to be somewhat of a nuisance. There's pineapple, by the way. But, you know, they're all over the ground. I can't possibly pick them all. So they're feeding the stuff that's on the ground. But they also sprout easily. And I get what I call cherry grass around here, which is all from the cherries. That, you know, when you mow them, they just kind of die. And it's good. I think I have this thought that it's good that things grow, that the process, and I've read a bit about this, that the process of the roots growing and the sugars and so on that happen in roots and root systems is very good for the ground, regardless. So I don't mind at all that these little trees grow up and then they're chopped down, because I think that all kind of connects it together. You know, helps the overall soil health is what I'm really trying to say. All right, let's see. Here's a recent thing that I've been doing, and this is a longan tree. It is a variety of lychee. If you know what lychee is, I love lychee. I tried to grow the lychee, didn't have a lot of success growing lychee. I'm not sure exactly, but this one hasn't fruited a lot, but it's been a good tree. I recently did this to it, which was to chop its high branches, and the reason was I wanted this. I wanted this sunshine to come through, because I want grass here. So I sacrificed this. And the other reason is, without the irrigation here, it would be fairly impossible to grow everything I'm growing. So I do need to fertilize it. And so I have a sprinkler head. I do need to irrigate it. And I irrigate at 3 o'clock in the morning so that, you know, the water absorbs. By the way, if you're irrigating, a long period of discovery, I realized that that's about the best time to do it, after talking with a lot of people that know, for a lot of reasons. If you irrigate first thing in the morning, well, then that water's all over your plants, and then when the sun comes up, it can evaporate it off, or even worse, it kind of lenses the sunlight into a way that it burns the plants. So not so great. You lose the water, so it's kind of wasteful. And especially here, we don't have a lot of water in the water table. I'm 4 blocks from the beach, so it's pretty salty. So we want to be cool with respect the water use. But the other reason is, if you were to sprinkle right before dark, well, now that water sits on your plants, and the opportunity for them to get, you know, mildew or rot or whatever, have too much water for long, it can be problematic. And so it seems like about 3 o'clock in the morning is about the right time to do it. Oh, look at this. Hold on. Little finch. I've Seen these before, and I'm hoping you can. There is a little tiny finch on this branch. It sees me. Not sure if I'm a friend. A little skittish, but I've seen these little finches. I've never seen them before. Got my own little Audubon society in this backyard here. Cardinals, robins, finches, hawks, all kinds of things. That's so neat. I love to see the birds back here. Really love that. But yeah, so 3 o'clock in the morning seems to be about the right time to water them. And nonetheless, when this thing comes on, it's spraying out and it's hitting this, and it's really not getting a lot of this area. And I really do need to just take away the rest of this sun blocking thing so that I can get grass back here. I want to have the grass. I like it. I like it. And this is blocking out a fair amount of it. Now, this is east. That's the ocean. I can almost hear it. A little wave today. Water warmed up to 78 degrees. And wow, I love 78-degree ocean water when it's going to probably get up to be about 82, 85 degrees today. So, you know, that's heaven math, friends. 85-degree air, 70-degree water. Man, oh man. Just give me a football, some of my kids, and we will lose track of all sense of time in the best possible way and simply dive into a world of joy that I truly love. So I can't wait to go do that. They're out running some errands now, I think. But after that, man, I'm going to have a good time. I can't wait. So fun. After I'm done with this live stream, in case anybody's interested in knowing what happens after this, I'm going to go back in and keep working on a song that I was fooling around with this morning. Amazing what you can do now with audio workstations and so on. So I put down a couple violin tracks, and I'm adding in some flute stuff, and basically creating a little composition where I'm going to also play some guitar over top of it, and hope to release that song this weekend on Jedi Jingle Maker. So if you're interested, go check that out. Also on Jedi Jingle Maker, my name's John, but musically I go as Jedi Jingle Maker, JJM, and my new band Honey Tap. Yeah, musically you could just symphony. At the touch of your fingers, I've got a pretty good ear for composition, so I just compose by ear, and it's amazing what you can produce. To expand out into some more like my views on music, how it's helped me all throughout my life, kind of, and what I really think, just like this backyard has a lot to teach me, I try to pay attention to it and learn what the existential philosophy is trying to convey to me. And if you look, you know, you can see those things. You just have to kind of pay attention. I think music's the same way. It's taught me a lot over the years about myself, about how not to cling to things, and how to just sink into the moment of what you're doing. And I'm at a point now where my musical experience is just greatly enriching my life. I can't emphasize that enough. And so just like this thing, you know, the hope is that I could share that love of a thing that has done good things for me with other people, and maybe it has a similar effect to them. I love that idea. James Tropicals, welcome aboard. James Tropicals is here, everybody. We have moderators on. I am so happy that, James, welcome aboard. I hope everything's going well for you and yours. Great to see you here. I need to pop over and take a look at your channel. By the way, everybody who's on the stream, please go check out James' channel. A lot of cool stuff to see there, without any doubt. Hi, it's been a while since I've commented on your videos. Yes, it has. It's been a while since I made a video, James, so I appreciate you being here. I'm glad you were here. I was kind of hoping that you and Gerald and others would make it on, and you're here with the blue wrench, whatever that means. Moderator. I don't know, there's a lot to moderate, but just know you are the blue wrench guy, which I think is pretty cool. I don't even really know why, but I think it is. All right, this area, I almost wondered if I was doing the right thing. This is like a lot of the things I've cut recently. I just lay down here, all the leaves fall off, and now we have these sticks. And I started to wonder, is this upsetting the neighbor's dog? starting to wonder if this would become like a place where rats would live, because we started to see some rats. I got rid of most of the rats I saw, we'll say. They're gone. But I was wondering if this would be a place where they burrow, and it could be. It definitely could be. But again, this is like a form of open air compost bin. You just pile stuff, and I guess you don't want to have the pile too high, but you just pile stuff and it will eventually turn back down into soil. So what I think I'll probably do, there's probably some snakes in there too. What I'll probably do is, yeah, pull out some of this wood, shake off the leaves to the best extent, being careful to not, get bitten by a snake or some unfortunate situation like that. And then put those, chop it up in smaller pieces and put those into the compost bin or lay them around in places where they can decompose. If you look back in here, you'll see the remnants of that idea everywhere you look. This is what I do, is I just put stuff on the ground, and eventually it does this. It's just falling into pieces, just turning back into soil. Really is not much more complicated than that. The only thing you have to get past is the idea that it is laying around, but that's kind of the more natural state. This was a piece of oak. Now it feels something like a sponge. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And away it goes. All of it will be eaten up. Yeah, here's a bit of oak bark, some ants running over it. All that stuff is going right back into the yard. Really cool stuff. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on is a really, really cool type of tree. Also has good nutritional value, something like the nutritional level of a broccoli. It's a type of tree that's been used successfully in various countries that have food production issues, famine issues, etc. It's called the moringa, and it will grow in just about any soil. It will grow here quite easily, and you can see it's doing fine right here. Let's pick it, and I'll eat a little of it too. Let's take a look at it. Moringa. It's a type of tree that you can grow from a seed. It produces, they call it horseradish tree. Some people do. I'll take a bite of this. Yeah, it kind of is tastes sort of like a pea, I would say, like a pea or a bean, and then the aftertaste is almost like a spiciness of a horseradish. Not as intense, but the fact is it's got the nutritional value of a broccoli. So you don't really need much nutrients. This wouldn't require the bunny manure so much as everything else, which is why it's so successful in alleviating, hunger in some places, malnutrition. More importantly, not just hunger, but malnutrition, is that it's rich in nutrients. And of course, if I just throw this ground, those nutrients are going to go right back into wherever it lays. So all good. But that one is one that you can grow, produce a beautiful tree, and continuously harvest a tree like a like a vegetable. So really interesting option. If you don't know about moringa, there's a Wikipedia page about it. There's a lot of information about it. Some people kind of refer to it as a superfood. So I'm not sure, to what extent, but I think it's probably, like I said, what I've read on is that it's about like a broccoli, which is great, right? So might be something you're interested in if you weren't aware of it. Maybe look into it. All right, let's see here. Rocket Man says, are the seeds on the robolini any good? Mine is finally fruiting. I'm going to come right out and say I don't like the taste of the robolini seeds, but they are edible, the robolini fruit. And drawbacks of the robolini fruit is just that there's such a little amount of flesh around the seed. It's almost all seed. It's almost just like the skin. But depending on how plump the seeds are, maybe they'd be better. Maybe slightly different variety or whatever of a robolini would be better than others. So yeah, I would say let me know. Give it a try and let me know. Maybe yours is good. In my experience, the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze on the robolini as a fruiting palm. If you're considering fruiting palm trees, of course, the number one would be the coconut that I said earlier. I believe, fruiting There's also date palms, which can be quite amazing. There's also my favorite, which is the Pindo palm. If you're familiar with the Pindo, Pindo, that's another great palm tree to consider. It has a fruit which is something like a cross between a banana and a pineapple, simply heavenly, very tangy, very wonderful. Uh, I've seen several of the ones used for landscaping that didn't seem to produce much usable fruit, and I've seen others that produce a beautiful plump fruit. My neighbor's got one, and occasionally I go over and ask them, hey, do you mind if I, they're always like, yeah, heck yeah, take all of them. But yeah, really delicious. So if you can find a good type that produces fruit in abundance, the Pindo is really a top pick, but nothing beats the coconut. I got 3 Pindos. Hope they fruit soon. Yeah, Rocket Man. I hope so. Yeah, let me know how that goes out. That's cool. Um, the cool thing about the Pindo palm, in addition to what I said, was that it will grow up into North Florida, and I've seen them even up in as far as Georgia. So it seems like they can survive further north than the subtropical line, which I think is somewhere around like right above Cape Canaveral, Florida, like that kind of general north of Tampa over to Cape Canaveral. So, I think that's a cool feature of the Pindo, is in the range of something that might be considered more tropical. Of course, sable palms. It's another type of potentially edible palm tree. They use the fruit for that for various medicinal purposes. They certainly, you can eat the heart of palm from a sable palms. I would say those are interesting variety too that will grow very easily. I've got one in my yard, and if you have a sable palm seeds, you probably get 100 sable palms if you grew them. So um, since we're on the topic of palms, I'll show you some Chinese fan palms that I grew from seeds, and I'll give you a quick tip that I always like to give just in case there's new folks on watching this, and hopefully it'll benefit if they're trying to grow palm trees. I was kind of frustrated by growing palm trees for a little while. I didn't have a lot of success, and I finally researched, and as it turns out, most palm trees, the seeds will grow if they're laying on top of the soil, which seems almost counterintuitive. But when you think about it, if you've ever seen a coconut tree grow, that's really how it grows. The coconut's laying on the ground, and all of a sudden a sprout's coming up, and the root goes down out of the coconut. But it sprouts on the ground, and I think if you bury a coconut, I don't think you'll get a coconut tree. I think almost all palm trees require to have their seeds exposed to some sunlight, or at least on top of the soil, and then they send down a taproot, and before you know it, you got a sprout coming up. That's how I had success growing all manner of different date palms, and of course the areca palms, and also the Chinese fan palm, which I think is a really beautiful palm tree, and I had some success growing that. And let's take a look and see how it's doing. I have them in an understory spot here. There you go. Yeah, so okay, my phone is giving me the notification that we have very little power left. James Tropical says that, let's see, coconut palm truly got huge and turbocharged by the bunny turds, and blowing in the beautiful tropical breezes. If you could see, I don't know that this is not a put down to anywhere or anything, but I don't think the sky gets more blue than in Florida. I just don't think it gets more blue. It's so incredibly, hopefully you can see that. That's my favorite color right there. If I could just look at that color anytime, it just makes me feel a little happier. Really, really nice. White, puffy clouds. Even when it is like raining or dark, cloudy in Florida, it always seems bright to me. Always seems bright. And yeah, I love it so much. And when breeze starts blowing like this, you can see we've got a nice east breeze. One of the things I did, we call this the happy stick with the happy flag. You see I got a little orange tape on there, and it's a piece of bamboo from one of my bamboo clumps out front, and I just tied a piece of plastic up there, and plastic ribbon, and it tells me which direction the wind is blowing, and it's telling me right now the wind is almost due east, onshore breeze. And when Wind is east. That means it's a nice breezy day, choppy day down at the ocean. And we plan on throwing a little rubber football, body surfing, splashing around. I'm going to set up this thing we have called a shibumi, which is like a basically very lightweight. It's like almost like a giant kite with just one rod. You stick the and the keeps it held up, so it's like a canopy that you can construct that's held up by the wind. Problem is it doesn't work if it's not windy. So, but guess what? It's windy here. Once you get to about 12 o'clock, wind picks up. The typical pattern where I live is offshore wind in the morning. In the summer, it's you could watch on it. Well, first thing is an epic sunrise that feels as if God is smiling directly on you, and then glassy conditions on a beautiful, like ocean, and then the sun comes up and it gets hot, 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 which is also nice. Feels like the atmosphere is hugging you, is how I always refer to it when it's humid like that. I love that feeling, oddly enough. And then the wind turns onshore, relief from that hot state, and feeling what I feel now in this beautiful shady canopy. Listening to the birds, watching the breeze blow through the coconut tree. If I were to complain right now, I think that would be probably the dictionary definition of an idiot. So I'm intensely grateful for everything that I'm encountering, including all of you on the stream. I appreciate you being here tremendously. I hope you will go over and throw me a mercy sub on Jedi Jingle Maker. Maybe leave a comment over there and tell me you found out about it. Eat your backyard. I'm not trying to make Jedi Jingle Maker to be some kind of to be in some way. I'm just, that's a place where I put my stuff, put my creative stuff, and explore a passion of mine in music. And if you want to be along for that journey, or you like music, well, maybe you'll like that, because you might say, what kind of music do you play? I play every kind of music. I love all types of music. I like anything that makes me feel something, and I like it as a way to express myself. And by the way, I'm going to start playing out live here soon with my buddy Damon in our musical project Honey Tap, and that's going to be an even more and wonderful part of my life that accomplishes a very similar thing that I'm doing here, which is we're connecting with people and hopefully all propelling each other towards a good spot. So that's a good thing. And I'll leave with just one last visual here, which is that of the chocolate pudding tree. Holy mackerel, that's a thing. Yeah, chocolate pudding tree. It tastes reminiscent of a chocolate-ish flavor. I would chocolatey flavor, sorta, but it's like a really weak avocado flavor, but not nearly as good. It's not really grapefruit, but they produce pretty significant fruit. There's one up. Let me see if I can point you out to one right there, if you can see it. Yeah, it's about the size of a large apple. Chocolate pudding fruit. That's another good sapote, they call it. Rocket Man said, Vistona Chinensis or for, oh, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but I don't know which variety of Chinese fan palm it is, but, oh, then you said, oh, it's great Livistonas. Okay, now I know. Interesting. I'll look that up after I get off of here, Rocket Man. Thanks for pointing that out. I haven't tried Kentia or Majesty palms, but I do have some neighbors that have some Majesty palms, and they are absolutely gigantic. One of my neighbors said that on his, I think it's called a Majesty palm. There was, I hope I'm getting this right, but it was just these giant, giant palm trees that have like 3-foot thick trees. Is that the one you're talking about? I wonder. But that when the palm fronds fell down, they were so big that it put a dent in his car. Man, don't park under that anymore. But they're just like unbelievably huge and beautiful. That's what you're talking about. I think it is. But yeah, I almost, just for that reason, I almost think I wouldn't plant one just in case of that. But I really enjoy looking at them. Some of my neighbors have planted them on the curb, and man, that's really helpful. I planted these coconut palms out on the curb as well, with some cocos palms and also a picabine palm. And they're all doing quite well, thanks to, again, broken record, the bunny turds. All thanks by the bunny turds. Okay. Gerald Fran says, you got to let the fruit get almost rotten and it tastes more like custard. Yep, okay. Good tip. I will do that next time. Maybe I'm picking them too early, the chocolate pudding fruit. Picking them too early. My daughter's boyfriend had tried one, and he's a real cool guy, and he tried one, and he said, but he wasn't that impressed. It's like, yeah, they're not really that good but yeah, maybe I should have told him, yeah, just let it almost get to the point of rottenness and then eat it and see, maybe you ate it a little bit premature. That's a good tip. Thanks, Gerald. Rocket Man. Sounds like royals, maybe. Yes, those fronds can be dangerous. Okay, all right, yeah, royal palms. Yeah, that's probably right. I don't know why I was Majesty. Well, I guess I was thinking Your Majesty, King, royal, so I could see where I might get confused there. All right, everyone. Hey, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you feel like it, smash that like button. Let the universe know you liked it. If not, no problem also. If you like this kind of stuff, you can check out the other videos on the channel. I am going to try to post a little bit more. I'm not going to forget the final step here, which is to show you something I'll be covering a bit more on the channel. I plan to make some videos about it, and it is this. A very good friend of mine constructed this amazing machine, and we are getting ready to explore hydroponic vegetable growing. Can you believe it? Look at this. What a masterpiece of technology this thing is. I feel just like incredibly honored that anything like this would be constructed for me to use. But yeah, I plan to make some videos about this, and I will share them with you. If you know anything about hydroponic vegetable growing or you're interested in it, please let me know. Also, I'll remember to put a link to the channel. It's a Rumble channel that she has these inventions on, so that if you're interested, you can connect there and maybe get one of your own or find out more, etc. Really super cool. But look at that. We've got all the ingredients to make this thing a functioning hydroponic system. I'm a little skeptical if this is the right place to put it. We're actually getting ready to have this AC unit replaced, so this is probably where I would put it. But if I put it out here, it's in the frying pan of sun that I think will be a tough place for it to survive. If I put it out there, it's likely going to get, if I put it out into the yard, it's going to get sulfur water from the sprinklers on it, and that'll probably kill any vegetables. So I've just got to figure out the exact right spot to put it. It might be in the bunny run, actually, which gets kind of a partial light. But yeah, stay tuned for more on that amazing creation. Okay. Gerald Friend says, it's hard to get used to letting them get to that state, a lot like persimmons. Okay, yeah, I don't have any persimmons time, but that's interesting to know. And Juice Plus Tower Gardens. Interesting. Very interesting. Juice Plus Tower Gardens. I'll have to check that out. All right, thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon, and thanks for watching Eat Your Backyard.